right, welcome back to the Moon Griffon Show. This is Dallas Hixson guest hosting today on Open Forum Friday. You can call in on the Hixson Has a Hotline, 844-766-6607. Now, I messed that up. He's never going to let me live that down.
That's okay, though. When you get outside here, they've got all the compliments waiting for you. They're rushing in, Rob and Bernie, and complimenting Dallas so much on being here in place of Moon.
Yeah, so am I going to get, this is going to like be I'm interviewing for the permanent job, right?
Something
he's
like
on a fishing trip somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And so we wrapped up several segments a moment ago with John Kennedy. Senator Kennedy was gracious to talk to us. He was going into a meeting and talking about budgetary things. We're talking about repeal and replace of health care again. There's a lot of other activity going on nationally, as well as some things going on with our state race to replace him as treasurer. So we've just got a lot of dynamics, and we're fortunate this morning. We have Kim Cape with us. Kim Cape is the general manager of the Central Market, which is a huge swath of the United States for Ford, representing areas like Texas up to Kansas and Missouri, all the way over to Tennessee, and all the way down to Mississippi. So a large part of the United States, as well as a huge part of the United States for truck and SUV sales, which obviously are a huge part of what Ford does. One of the major things affected by Kim's area is obviously Hurricane Harvey, which came in and devastated and flooded Florida. Just a lot going on there. Originally, they had estimates of 12 million cars that were flooded. Now we're hearing realistic estimates of more like 1 million. I think based on the last statistic I looked at, there was about 100,000 claims so far. I'm an insurance agent also, so it's interesting to see this insurance part of it take place. But also that, the 100,000 claims is just 10% of that million. So we got a lot of people that are still hurting, and obviously they need transportation, hadn't had a chance to file. So Kim, welcome this morning. I'm glad to have you on the show.
Oh, good morning, Dallas. I'm happy to be here.
And you're calling us from Dallas, Texas, in your headquarters?
That's correct. Yes.
Absolutely. And so, Kim, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us this morning. I know you're busy. You got a lot going on, especially with some of the things that Ford's doing for the relief effort in that Texas area. Now Ford's having to deal with, obviously, transportation issues in Florida. But just tell us, kind of what's going on with Ford. Hurricane Harvey, what impact do you think this storm? Tell us a little about what Ford's doing. What impact has it had in your area specifically, but the United States?
Yes. Well, let me just start by saying to our consumers and all of the employees, on behalf of Ford Motor Company, really our thoughts and prayers continue to be with those impacted by the devastating storms. Our dealerships are up and running, but they sustained significant damage, but all are now open, operating to some extent. And really with regard to Hurricane Irma, very two unique storms, if you will, with Hurricane Harvey having the devastating flooding, Irma with, the power outages. But I would say, Ford and our Ford dealers are really coming together. We've raised over $3.5 million in support of Hurricane Harvey relief efforts and for the communities, our first responders, and dealership employees and their families. Absolutely. And I would say even the Ford Fund has donated over $500,000 to the American Red Cross, and that includes the Salvation Army and other agencies as well.
Look, I really appreciate that. Ford is always, being a Ford dealer myself, I've seen what Ford does firsthand in the case of any kind of adversity like these storms, 9/11, all the other things that Ford has been a part of as national tragedies, and I'm proud of them. And so, I'm just curious, give me some idea of what impact the storm's going to have on U.S. sales for maybe this month or even going forward.
Yeah, when you look at Hurricane Harvey, Dale, Houston is one of our top 10 markets in the U.S., very strong for Ford. It represents, over 15% of our total sales. And it has some impact on our business, and it's hard to really specify the quantity. If you look back at Katrina, we did see a significant decline in sales from the hurricane, but then you had the recovery. And what we're seeing today, very significant traffic in the stores. Consumer demand is very strong. Ford is doing everything in their power to simplify the process for the dealers, to get inventory to them as quickly as possible, to serve our customers. And we have families coming in with their insurance checks, buying 2 and 3 vehicles at a time. So Our dealerships are up and running and ready to serve the customer.
No, and you mentioned, I know the devastation, the million cars lost. Just out of curiosity, how much inventory was lost? New car inventory, I'm talking about at dealers. I know quite a few were affected. Some were able to move some cars out of harm's way. But how many vehicles were affected or lost in Harvey?
When we look at Houston, with Harvey, it was, probably around 2,500 in the low thousands of new vehicles that we've identified. And I've heard, to your point, that million unit total industry. But what we can assess, and we're still in the assessment phase, if you will, but it's in the low thousands. And isolated, really, we had roughly, 10 dealers that were significantly impacted, with a couple of our dealers really losing their whole fleet of inventory.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that just, speaks to the fact of the devastation. And, do you expect, I know Harvey is going to have an impact, obviously a negative impact on so many people's homes and vehicles. But when we have this much loss, as back in Katrina and other things, I think maybe a positive. How do you think it's going to affect the used car market?
Well, I think it will take some time to see the effects, but really we will see a demand for used vehicles, and we also will see used car pricing, I think, hold firm. I know, economists are really assessing the total impact. I think when you look at the total industry, we'll see a surge in, housing-related employment. And what we're seeing, again, is, immediate recovery to kind of rebuild the economy.
Right. No, I think that's good. And that's what I'm hoping, is that the devastation that's taken place, that the same people that experience that will have the opportunity to experience the upside of, obviously, sales coming back. And so hopefully that's going to be a positive as well. And I'm just curious, do you believe, is this going to be pent-up demand? In other words, is Ford going to lose sales over this, or do you think at some point it's going to be made up at a later date?
Yeah, I definitely think that we'll see. We had a slight decline, obviously, with the devastation of the storm in the early stage, but we're already starting to see business, return as consumers are getting their insurance claims and they can be processed. So I really believe, we'll start to see the business normalize.
Right.
And, Ford, again, with the products and the programs that we're offering consumers very proactively, it's all about Texas's family plan. And I'm really excited to talk about the assistance that, we're providing, such as the same no-haggle pricing that Ford employees receive. So a consumer can go in that suffered the loss or hardship and pay for a vehicle what I would pay as a Ford Motor Company employee, as well as not having to make any payments until 2018. And then our Ford Credit partners are there to support the financing with the low rates and easy online application process.
Kim, for those people that are listening, that's unparalleled. I mean, that's just unprecedented for Ford to do that. It's a significant, number one, it's a participation by the dealers, but a significant participation by Ford Motor Company itself to do that. As far as I've been, 20-something years in this business, almost 30, first time I remember that happening. So I think that's a big step up, and I hope you feel that way as well.
I do. And I will also say, Dallas, we've been friends, but on behalf of Ford, I really want to thank our dealer partners. The Texas dealers really stepped forward, contributed, $1 million just through the dealer associations to support dealership employees impacted by the storm. So there's a whole relief fund where these employees can get, support depending on the severity of loss. And so, again, it's really the community coming together, our dealers and Ford Motor Company as a whole. Yeah,
I tell you, about a year ago when they had the storms that flooded a lot of the South Louisiana area, across South Louisiana, our FDAF, our Southern Quality Ford dealers, received monies that were able to be used for those employees. So I know what that meant to the employees of Ford dealerships here a year ago and their families, and I know it's happening there. And so we've got just a minute or so left. Kim, tell us anything else you want to finish up with, some other things that Ford may be doing in this area, just anything you want us to know about Ford, those employees at Ford, and kind of what they're doing that you might just want to finish with.
Yes, I will say that we will continue. This isn't a one-time, we're done at the end of the month. I mean, whether it's related to the Texas's family plan that we offer the assistance to our consumers, Anything we're doing on the service side of the business, there's many actions that we're doing to help expedite parts for consumers that may have vehicles in need, and then, again, the community. But in closing, our thoughts and prayers are with those impacted by the hurricane. On behalf of Ford, our mission is to make the process simple and, focus on the road to recovery for all.
Well, Kim, look, I really appreciate you being with us this morning. I really appreciate the leadership you bring. Our dealers are under your privy of your region, and I tell you, we're experiencing good things because of you and your staff in Ford. I appreciate what Ford's doing, not only for South Louisiana that flooded as part of Harvey, but all of Texas. I know they appreciate your thoughts and prayers and what Ford does for them as well. So do the consumers. And again, I just really appreciate your time. Appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thank you, Dallas. I appreciate that.